All members of the board being present will begin the meeting of Thursday, March 28th of the Milton Board of Selectmen. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of March 21st. Any changes?
Mr. Chairman, on the first page, in the paragraph that discusses the water system flushing program, we discussed having the meter readers distribute survey postcards to see if there's an improvement. We suggested that should be delayed till next winter, since the water quality problems are greatest in winter.
Just the only other question I had in that same paragraph was the word randomly. Was it going to be random? Was that the...
That was the original proposal.
I think it was randomly, but then perhaps more intensively in areas where we've identified problems to see if they have been alleviated.
What she's saying is she wants more mailings than random.
Wow.
Language in here.
Maybe the word is deleted.
Just take out
Randomly.
and I think we should have a memo of what it is we'd like.
And a report on how best to do it.
Mr. Chairman, on the first page here, I just had a question up at the top here on the fifth paragraph. This is the Ocean State Signal Company for a spare traffic controller. And was the word conflict monitor? Was that the right?
That's the term.
That's the conflict. I just remember that. All right, if conflict was the right word, okay.
It sorts out the signals, walk, no walk, and keeps it all coordinated.
All right, the only other question I had was on the next page, fourth paragraph, where it talks about the MDC Pike path, which I assume refers to bike path. Correct?
Right.
Okay. With those changes, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
The second item on the agenda is an opportunity for statements by Milton residents with a 3-minute limit. Is there anyone here who does not have an appointment with the board who would like to address the board? Sir?
I just want to address...
Why don't you have a seat, and if you could identify yourself and your address, please?
my name is Steve Toulouse. I live at 120 Hilltop Street in Milton. I've been reading in the paper recently about the Forbes Road project, and I understand that due to percolation rates and the soil being contaminated, and that their septic systems in the area are failing and that type of thing. That they need to get sewerage in the area. And while I agree that this is a good thing to do, I don't feel that the rest of the town should pick up the tab for it. It's a problem shared in that neighborhood exclusively, and I believe that the town should help them out through low-interest loans, and that type of thing, and an assessment for a period of time to pay it off. But having the rest of the town split the cost, I just don't think that's good, and I think it sets a bad precedent. Under Title V, which they would be, if they had to sell their property, they would have to fix all that anyway, and so they would probably end up incurring the costs. This way here, they get some, over a longer period of time and something somewhat reasonably affordable. But I'm just voicing my opinion. I just want to after reading in the paper the other day that some scenarios about splitting the cost and this and that, and I just don't feel that that's appropriate. And we can't. People that have septic systems, they don't have the sewerage, and maybe if we start bailing out this group, then other areas of the town will want to have sewerage, and we could set an expensive precedent. That's all I'm concerned about.
Okay. Thank you. We'll maybe get into some of these issues when we get to that part of the debate. You wish to address the board, Mrs. Agostino?
Diane Agostino, 147 Ridgewood Road. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at Citizen Speak. As you know, the Enterprise Fund Study Committee has submitted for your review both a majority and a minority report, and it's quite extensive. And yet the board's letter invited the chairman of the Enterprise Fund Study Committee, to review the committee's report, and only invited the members to attend. Basically, I don't know if you get a copy of that letter. But I would think, as a courtesy for the time and effort put into our committee work, that an invitation to the entire committee to meet with the board for an open and honest deliberation on the different views.
As chairman, Mrs. Agostino,
Sure.
when it gets to that part of
No, this,
the meeting, well, I'm just telling you, I have no qualms about asking you and any other member of the committee to come up and join us. As a matter of fact, that's what I thought we were going to do. I didn't
Yeah.
see this letter. I think that if you have other issues, please bring them up, but that's not an issue here.
well, the only reason I'm bringing it up here is because our meeting wasn't posted. Therefore, to deliberate it, I could not stay. And I tried to get an answer to this today and contacted, the town hall and councilors. So I'll just present in summation for you, and I thank you for pointing that out, John. The minorities report in one quick statement. And it's a quotation from Mr. Tom Spofford, who resigned from the committee in somewhat frustration. And his statement is that with regard to the water, sewer, and solid waste enterprise funds, that my Milton experience demonstrates that the lack of political will to do the right thing is just as fatal to the progress as not understanding the problem and thinking that the problem will just go away. And in closing, for the future, and I'm removing myself from the meeting only not to put myself in question, that the safest course, as any council would recommend, is to simply post it, which it's only a postcard, and that's why I'm not able to attend.
I think, have you gotten town council opinion on whether you should release, you
I
can...
contacted Murphy, Toomey,
And
and
what did they say?
their answer was the safest course is to simply post it and not put yourself in a
I will
Post this
ask
meeting?
to post the enterprise. Yours is
for them
posted.
to, well,
Well, the deliberation on the enterprise fund ended when you submitted your report, as you were required to by the bylaws. That report was submitted to the Board of Selectmen. That is the end of the duties of the enterprise.
Except the study
No
committee.
further deliberation.
The study committee has not ceased. In fact, this was not just one lawyer, right? I was concerned since this has come up repeatedly, and that's why I'm glad to hear that that was not an intent. I thank you, John, for pointing that out. But I did speak to almost 5 different attorneys at different locations and just feel it's easier for me to remove myself and to make the minority statement. And I know we all appreciated George Carey's work and that he is very unbiased and will present the reports. So,
I was looking forward to you coming in tonight because, and I really think that you're withdrawing yourself. You have every right to stay, but I think that yours and Mr. Spofford's position, I think you yourself have spent a lot of town money on this with your questions to town council using his time. I was looking forward to asking you some questions about your position because I totally disagree with your position. And Mr. Spofford's, I think that your position on enterprise accounts with regard to solid waste in particular would raise dump fees considerably, and I'm against that, and I wanted to talk to you about it.
I know, and-
If you have to leave, that's fine, but I would invite you back at some future meeting.
I'd appreciate that because I think prior to town meeting, that some of those issues need to be
I
discussed.
don't understand why you're leaving. I don't understand.
Well, it was the wording of the letter inviting us and the fact that the Enterprise Fund Study Committee is not posted.
She might have to debate about facts.
Say deliberate and
I don't understand, you're asked to appear at a meeting.
to
The
attend.
committee was, the chairperson was asked to attend.
No, he was asked to review the report. We were asked to
Yeah, so
attend.
where is the policy-making and
If
deliberation?
we sat at the table and deliberated it, and I did, like I say,
The committee
You
made
wouldn't
its
have to
reports over.
deliberate anything.
The committee,
the committee has not ceased. I did
voted.
discuss
You
this
voted.
with
You've done your
more than
deliberation.
2 lawyers.
Well, which lawyers did you talk to, and we'll talk to them.
Mr. Toomey at Murphy, Toomey, Lehane, and Hesse,
Okay.
and he said, whenever there's a question, the safest possible route is to post it, and if you're uncomfortable in a situation, then it'd be best not to do it.
Okay, what other lawyers did you talk to?
Well, the others were district attorneys' offices and, what's the other one? And it turned out it was after 5 when I reread this invitation
So you
to
talked
find
to
out the
one lawyer,
time.
not 5.
No, I actually contacted 9.
isn't this just a question and answer period? I expect this to be simply a question and answer period. I expect Mr. Carey to speak to something, I expect us to ask questions, I expect him to answer.
It's
So what- where
because
was the-
there's a minority and a majority, and as John said, we have differing views. And your board, obviously, will have to come to consensus, and the deliberation that will entail is a view.
But that would be us. So this meeting's posted for the
We're getting
select.
caught up in Parliament here.
I know, and it's a shame to get caught up in that, but I know that Mr. Carey will present the viewpoints, and I think that Councilor John Flynn, he said he really enjoyed researching the laws.
Sure,
and-
he's getting paid. Of course he did.
Well, 1902 was quite some time ago, so I think it's always wise to research the content of our laws, and I will look forward to watching you discuss that.
I wanted to know why this is going to save us so much money we can buy a backhoe, which is what you said in the paper, and I was
Who
really...
said it was going to buy a backhoe?
You said that some other town had
Oh, I think that was a, you know how you often say you can get misquoted. I think that I read that and I said, a backhoe we're going to buy.
It's kind of like 9 lawyers turns into one.
We definitely disagree on the fact, and it is factual, that enterprise funds do not affect rate. That is, an accounting process that it affects the rates, which is at the sole discretion of the Board of Selectmen, being the Water and Sewer Commissioners.
Well,
But
that's
I won't
not
take
true.
more than my 3 minutes, John.
That's not what Mr. Spofford offered.
Yes, and town meeting will be further discussing this, and I'm always available to discuss it further, too.
Sure, well, you're invited anytime.
Thanks, John.
Okay, we have a 7:30 conference with Town Accountant Ed Spellman, which is 20 minutes late. Hi, Ed, how you doing?
Good evening, how are you? What I'd like to present is just some reports for the board to review. What I have here is there's a trial balance identifying all the funds and the accounts. There's a revenue summary report for the general fund revenues, a separate fund for the water fund and sewer fund. And then also 2 expenditure type reports, one detailing all the individual activities for the month with the beginning balance and ending balance.
It was all up in New
Right.
The new system.
The new system, yes. And then there's a new management report I'd like to present. And what it tries to do is to summarize each department on a 1-page. So it summarizes all the activities and the accounts. The first page might not be a good example, but I think the next page,
Yeah, it's the Enterprise Study Committee.
the second page, I think, is the Selectmen's department, which basically shows the appropriation for the salaries and the various accounts charged, the appropriation for the expenditures, and then at the bottom totals budget expenditures and the balance available. In the next few months, I'll be putting together summaries on a loaded spreadsheet where I hope to condense this information down into several pages, a much more condensed and, I think, manageable presentation, and I can present that, and also the detailed reports if you are interested in that.
Ed, I've got the subsidiary ledger. February, it's probably up to the end of February.
For the month end February, yes.
If someone is raising funds on behalf of the town from one of the departments, or for any reason, do they have to report that to you? Do they have to? Do you issue a separate number for that, or how does that work?
All funds collected by the town should be just deposited with the town treasurer, and then a copy should be sent to me.
Okay. But if they're using, how would we know if somebody is using R04 number? For what purposes?
The auditors will get into that in a few minutes, when the
Okay.
auditors present, because they uncovered the fact that they contact all the banks and ask them to send them everything that they on those numbers. They'll comment on that.
Okay. So they're coming in at what?
And the treasurer has taken some steps to survey those and the people find out what they're doing
Okay.
and change them.
Right. So,
Go ahead.
on this report here, you plan to disseminate this monthly?
I can prepare that and print it out monthly for you, and I hope to consolidate it down so that the selectmen's budget would have a salary line and expense line, and conceivably put together a report that would be 4 or 5 pages long, summarized for you, and the detail would be there if you wanted it. and even more detail in this report listing each weekly expenditure.
I think it'd be worthwhile to have, each of us have a summary monthly, and then secondly, to have a copy of this lengthy detail in the center of the table once a month at the end of the month for us to, or actually the first week after the beginning of the month, to review it, without having to make up 3 copies of this thing.
Okay,
So, at least on this report, I haven't seen the other 2, but it seems to me this, we might want to refer to if we have a question in the summary that you distribute to us.
Sure.
And can you also presumably make available to the warrant committee the same report to the chairperson?
A member of the warrant committee has asked for this information, and I was going to present him the 2 reports and ask which they preferred, or ask it through the chair, which one she'd prefer to have.
Okay,
Again, they've
just to
received-
tie them in.
They're looking for to have a terminal in our basement conference.
Okay, so is that would be possible for somebody to dial in?
Yeah, so a wire could be dropped to the basement and a terminal hooked up for a read-only access to...
But not from
allow
off-site?
them-
Why not?
I'm asking, that's what I'm saying. I was interpreting you to say off-site, and then he was talking about a wire in the building.
It was to be in the basement conference.
Oh.
That's what they-
In the corner of the room in which they meet,
It
so...
may be that each member, I don't know, if he connected.
That's what they'd like.
Well,
A dial-in off-site.
We've come a long way. If foreign committees are asking for that, we were asking for one $3,000 little computer for the secretary. I'm looking at the revenue and expenditure statement, and
Yes.
I see that you have Fund 25 sewer fund revenues and expenditures,
Correct.
and Fund 26 water department revenues and expenditures. So that's what we really have been asking you to do for the last couple of years since you've been here.
Yes,
Okay, so now it's done.
So it's completely segregated now.
that's correct.
Water, sewer, general.
Yes.
Can I take over this one?
This one's really interesting.
Chapter 90 as well?
Yes, there's a separate highway fund for Chapter 90. It's Fund number 13. And then after that, there are some school grant accounts for federal and state grants,
School,
and then
state.
school other grants.
So Fund 20 is school, state, and federal.
Correct, and then there's some school revolving in Fund 28, which would be things like athletic revolving, a number of various others. And Fund 29 would be some town revolving grants, things like the park and rec revolving.
Now, this one here, this one is this subsidiary ledger. There's a reference to budgeted revenue. And that column, is that filled in on a summary basis someplace here?
No, I've not inputted the budgeted revenue figures into that as of this point.
Yeah, so you'll be able to put that in and come up with, there's a variance column on the far right here.
That's correct. Originally, when the budget was passed, I had not put that in, and then when the tax recap was in and certified, those numbers could actually be dropped in here in the budgeted column, and we'll give you some budget actuals.
Yeah, so here's an example of an line item for let's see, stickers, landfill stickers, 109,000 through February 29th. So that's some of the questions that the warrant committee's been asking about on the sales of landfill stickers. So there's a specific line item for it.
Have a look at this one.
What I can do is hand out, I guess as a segue to the Enterprise Committee, is I guess it's been known as Tab 6 or Table 8, just some proposed language for presenting water, sewer, and solid waste information.
This was, is a recommendation of the committee that it be included in the warrant and possibly in the annual report.
And what this basically does is to kind of expand the Table 8 that was presented in the previous year's warrant. It segregates a separate page for water, sewer, and solid waste. It provides a 3-year information similar to what had been presented in the warrant for all of the other items. It presents an actual expenditure for the fiscal year 1995. A budget is voted for fiscal 1996, and then a recommended for fiscal year 1997.
We'll begin the meeting of Thursday, February 29th. The first item on the agenda is to read and approve the minutes of the meeting of February 22nd. Any changes?
Mr. Chairman, in the second long paragraph, in the last full line, that's NWRA, not MDC.
Okay.
Is Mr. Thoden at the end of the
Yes.
Any other changes, Mr. Neely?
No.
Okay, have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I have two announcements before we, both good news, before we start the regular meeting. The first is that just prior to the meeting tonight, Representative Manning called me and informed me. We went to, Mrs. Dunphy and I went to a meeting the other night of hockey and skating aficionados who, the meeting was on behalf of the state. The MDC commissioner was there, Representative Finneran, Representative Owens-Hicks, Senator White, Representative Manning, and some other people from the state, Mr. Hines. And we talked about the improvements that would be happening at the Ullin Rink. Near the end of the meeting, there was an exchange between Dennis Drain and the MDC commissioner about new Zanabonis for the skating rink. And Representative Manning called today to say that he had talked to the MDC commissioner, and there will be a new Zanaboni delivered to the rink, which he couldn't, the commissioner couldn't promise it the other night, and he said he had some on order, but there'll be a new Zanaboni at the rink within the month. So that's good news. He couldn't promise that. They only had 4 on order, and they've got 20 rinks. So he at that time, he could not promise that we'd get the Zanaboni, and evidently we are going to get it, so that's good news. The second thing is that some people have made some comments this week about a stuffer that was included in the excise tax bills, which is part of a committee that I'm on to raise money for education in town. It's a strictly voluntary thing. The committee is myself, the superintendent of schools, Kevin Sorgi, Mr. Moonen, and Jan Blake. And it's strictly, if anybody would like to volunteer to an education fund on behalf of the schools, that's going on now. The good news is that the town treasurer informs me that this week alone, he's gotten over 30 responses and raised over $600 through that voluntary checkoff system, which is you know, really good news for the first time out. And we're going to have to improve on the wording of the stuffer and whatnot in the future, but it is going on, and if anybody does care to contribute to the schools, that's one way to do it. So next we'll go to citizen speak. If you are a Milton resident, you have a 3-minute limit to come up and address the board. Mr. Sweeney.
Mr. Shields.
Mr. Sweeney's out of makeup and he's here. For his big TV appearance.
I forgot my blue shirt.
Oh, I have, Bob.
Good, thank you. This is Dan Higgins behind me, and Dan is the president of the Indian Cliffs Association, and I am the vice president, and it is in that capacity that we're here to address you this evening. It's on behalf of the approximately 150 homeowners in the neighborhood in Milton known as Indian Cliffs. Back in December, we forwarded to the Selectmen's office a petition that expressed our concern over the deterioration of some of the streets, particularly the older streets in the Indian Cliffs Neighborhood Association. And I'm here this evening to, again, on behalf of the people in that area, request assistance from the Selectmen in terms of our request, and our request, I feel, is a very reasonable one. We're looking for a commitment of assistance, and we're looking for a timetable that would address our needs in a timely fashion. And we realize that extraordinary things come up. We had snow this year that taxes the budget, and that there's many other streets in town also. But regardless of that, I would like to point out that Mr. Taylor, at a town meeting back a few years back, I'm not sure of the date, but he specifically showed a street in Indian Cliffs as an example of a street that needs to be repaved. And I think it's fair to ask for a timetable, to ask for assistance, and we wanted to ask you if we can get that commitment of assistance and get a resurfacing plan.
Well, I think you've already seen the start of the resurfacing plan when Indian Spring Road was resurfaced this year. And in the plan, as presented to the town meeting, Colonial Road is scheduled to be resurfaced. And that will be done next year, as was presented to the town meeting last year. And we are in the process of presenting and preparing the plan for the fiscal 97. We're handicapped somewhat because we haven't been informed as to the amount of money that will be available under the Chapter 90 program for next year. We have an article in the warrant to appropriate those funds, and the legislature has a bond issue, a transportation bond issue pending before it, and very soon we expect to have a firm number, and we expect that it will be equal to or perhaps greater than the sum that we had last year, which was $470,000. And tonight the Public Works Director will be meeting with the Board of Selectmen to talk specifically about the Chapter 90 program, what has been done, what the streets are, what the geographic distribution is of those different streets. And we'll be starting tonight the plan for 97. So we have your petition before us, and the Public Works Department is aware and has brought to the town's attention the needs up there. But as you say, it has to fit into the plan for the entire town. It would be inappropriate to neglect another section of the town for the benefit of yours. I don't think you're asking for that.
No.
So you've seen, I think, a very substantial start last year. And it would be well to acknowledge that to the Public Works Department, who worked hard to get that job done.
Right, Indian Spring was done in
Right.
the past year. But what we're...
It's a tremendous,
But
it's a
what
huge street.
we're looking for is,
Great.
we're looking for somebody to say, well, the following year, Old Farm Road is going to be done. And the year after that, the plan is that we're looking for a plan.
That's perhaps,
You know, in
that's perhaps more than...
almost on paper, I'd say, is
Perhaps
what we're
more
looking
than
for.
it's possible
Yeah.
for us to do right now, but it's reasonable for you to pursue that sort of a plan and at least be looking ahead a year or two as to what's under consideration. And I will be happy to arrange for Mr. Higgins to have a meeting with the Director of Public Works, and then to set up a system where you can periodically follow up on how it's coming, when things are going to happen, when you might expect it. But it always is going to be reliant on annual appropriations, annual approval by the Board of Selectmen. And we have a new pavement management plan, or a program, a computer program that's going to be going into effect this spring. That will assist the Board of Selectmen in their long-range view. And I welcome you to come up and to see that once we
Okay,
get
thank
it
you.
set up.
I want to point out to you, Bob, that Colonial Road is on the list that we will be discussing tonight.
Okay.
So it's made it
It's in the upcoming season.
for the
Upcoming
next
season.
fiscal
you know,
year.
I don't think it's unreasonable, though, to if Bill could come up with a plan of what his priorities are in that section. In other words, we did Indian Spring last year, Colonial next year, and then, let him go over with you guys what the priorities would be.
What the needs
Given-
are.
Yeah, what the needs are, and
Needs
then
assessment.
try to follow that as best he can.
Yeah.
Maybe he can't get there every year, but at least you'd know what his plans are.
Okay.
I mean, people realize they don't expect it all to happen tomorrow, and that's not.
Sure, and I think Old Farm Road is, in my opinion, is one of those streets that is in line for consideration for the future. Whether we could do all of it, say in 97, 98, or whether we'd have to do, say, a piece of it one year and a piece of it another year, that will remains to be seen as we work things out. But I thought there was a tremendous commitment by the town, demonstrated by what we did last year.
Well, certainly in doing Indian Spring was a definite welcome.
Right, and it didn't necessarily have the worst problems in some sections. I think Colonial has the worst problems in one section there. But Colonial is on the list, and I expect it will be on the schedule for the summer. But
And fiscal 97 begins July 1st, and we haven't even reviewed that schedule for street yet, so.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Dan did want to discuss one little other issue with you that concerns safety.
I knew you were going to be
And
trouble
can
when I
he have his
saw
own
you.
3 minutes?
One of the beauties of being president is you can delegate the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
This can be far less painful. And thank you for the time. I did take the liberty of preparing a little document just to present the issue real quickly. And as Bob alluded to, it is really one of safety. It's something that's been brought to my predecessor's, Joe Murphy's, attention several times. In fact, I caught him many occasions banging on car doors trying to get people to move their cars. It's one of safety. The issue is the location of a bus stop at the entrance of Indian Spring off of Canton Avenue, and I attempted, and I apologize, architecture and engineering, whatever my strong points, to put a map together on the second page.
Pretty clear.
It really is a safety concern. Cars are parking there waiting for the bus to show up at approximately 7:15 every morning and 4 o'clock every afternoon.
The bus that goes to Dexter.
I'm certain there's some Southfield children on it, and Joe has told me he thinks it's Dexter as well. I think it's one bus,
Okay.
and I think they consolidate the busing needs.
We're going to have a safety officer. too.
Safety officer, police department safety officer will help you with this.
Okay, we would, we're not looking to have the bus stop go away. We're saying bring it into the neighborhood. Get it off Canton Avenue. The bus, we took an attempt at proposing a location, and the bus goes left to right on the graph, Canton from Ave, west to east. If it were to come in, it could even do a circle and Pawnee Circle
Is
there.
it across the street on coming home? Or is it?
On the 4 o'clock stop, I'm not sure. I would suspect it's moving east to west. I know it's going in the morning because that's when I see it the most. It's going towards East Milton.
It has a stop here in front of the town office building, and it's on the street, but it seems like it's on right in by the edge of the road.
And really, it's not, the bus stops there, it's the cars that stop and wait. And Joe, last snowstorm, this diagram was created from what he saw when he came home, cars parked on both sides.
Yeah.
And he was pulling in the snowy roads, and Canton Ave coming at you that way is not always the slowest.
Okay.
It'd be Officer
Yeah.
Robert Galvin.
Should I present this to him or drop the?
We'll send it over.
Okay, because I'd be more than happy to write letters or do whatever. And again, we'd suggest bringing the bus stop in. We're not looking to say go away. Some of the people are neighbors of ours, and we've tried through newsletters to get them to just pull back, and maybe the bus will come in. But that just hasn't worked, and Joe has tried knocking on the windows, and that hasn't worked either.
That seems like a positive suggestion.
I've observed that too, and you're right, for everyone's safety. There must be a better solution.
We've had several people come up saying, geez, we just missed an accident today, or the kids are out there when the weather gets nicer, the cars are still there, and the kids are out of the car.
I can see how that can happen.
Yeah.
Well, we'll refer this over to the police chief, and he'll get in touch with the safety officer. They'll probably be in touch with us.
I appreciate that, and
Okay.
be more than helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
See you, Bob. You can stick around.
With Billy Taylor.
Billy Taylor's coming in a little while.
At 8:15,
8:15 we have
if you
it.
want to wait.
You may want to do number 2 with Billy Taylor. At 8:30?
Yeah, let's do Sarah Harnish's letter at
Right.
when Bill comes in. Actually, we could do 3 when Bill comes in, too. 4 is a letter to the board from the Columbine Cliff Neighborhood Association. Dear Chairman Shields, on behalf of the residents of the Columbine Cliff Neighborhood Association, I wish to express my deep appreciation to you and your colleagues for your steadfast support of us during our 4-year struggle with the Metropolitan District Commission. We are extremely pleased that local control has been affirmed by the state legislature with regard to any development along the banks of the Neponset River in Milton. Also, we are keenly aware that such an outcome would not have been possible without the board's complete focus and attention on this issue. It is comforting to know that the voice of the community can be heard on a matter of such vital importance. It is also reassuring to know that our local elected officials can make a government bureaucracy like the MDC respond to the community's concerns, even when the MDC had no intention of doing so on its own. We made peace with the MDC this week, but if the board considers designating a town resident to monitor the actions of the MDC during the completion of this project, I ask that you appoint someone from the CCNA as it represents the neighborhood which will be directly affected. I would be happy to present the board with the names of concerned CCNA members. Once again, I thank each of you, as well as Executive Secretary John Cronin and Chief of Police Kevin Moon.
Maybe we should take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that we
Signed by
should.
Dagmar Parks, the
You
president.
should ask her if she has
Columbine.
some names to suggest.
Yeah,
Ask her
So
to
Senior
write to her.
O'Malley's been attending all the meetings, very active over the 4 years.
well, why don't we talk to Dagmar about it, and
But
I'll call her this week if you want, okay? But that's a nice letter.
Item 5 is in response to a Milton Record transcript article.
That
on
one
the compost.
must have been one of
Composting.
the articles you could read. You can't read too many. This one is a letter to the board. It says, here it is again in the Milton Record transcript, again about the complaints from people about the foul odor from the municipal landfill. My husband and I have lived on the end of Orchard Road for 53 years, and we have never smelt any foul odors. Just why can't land lime be put on the grass clippings at the end of each day at the landfill, and that would eliminate the foul odors and would save the cost of moving the clippings and would save the residents money too. It sounds like we in this area live in a dump, and I think we live closer to the landfill than Mrs. Higgett will from. And again, we have never smelled any foul odors. Yours truly, Mrs. Muriel Pascatonio, 42 Orchard Road.
Well, we had the suggestion of the line looked at. Has the DPW looked at that idea?
It's been brought up a couple of times to me in the last couple of
Blakey,
weeks.
Mr. Blakey?
Lime?
You sure there's a line?
Putting lime on it.
Yeah, I don't think they felt that would be effective. I had suggested that.
Also, what the expense would be.
Marriage to a farmer's daughter, and they use a lot of lime to tweak.
Great, thanks. We did get some correspondence basically confirming that residents received Michael Blakey's pager number so that they could reach either a town DPW worker during the ordinary workday or someone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There seems to have been some confusion that one or more of the neighbors might have been using a different number that had been given to them at an earlier date. And I hope that confusion has been resolved. And also, we have a list of some recent phone calls and the, confirmation that the DPW or Mr. Blakey did respond on all occasions that we did receive calls. And these complaints are sent on to the DEP. So there is a concerted effort to be responsive to anyone who does call. And then we have a letter from someone who does not.
So we're going to ask Mr. Taylor to take a look at this lime issue?
Sure.
Yeah. All right, item 6 is White's Taxi. An agreement between the town and Milton White's Taxi, Inc. regarding the fines for no seals on the taxis.
All right, so we need to sign this.
Yeah.
And the amount of the fine is $3,000, which is a substantial.
Have you got the original document?
This is,
I move that we sign that.
second.
All in favor?
agreement.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
There was no evidence of any of the meters being advanced to read in a fast or to the benefit of the taxi cab owner. They were each tested on a surprise testing when it came to light, and so that we don't believe that the taxi cab users suffered any loss during that period of time.
Okay. Item 7 will hold for Mr. Taylor.
I need a second one to sign, so well.
Oh, there's 2 places?
No, we'd like a second copy.
You may want to, there's a letter there from Lieutenant Giorgio on the East Milton traffic situation. We may want to reemphasize that one again, which I don't know. Go back and look at the letter it was. It was letter number 5A, East Milton project.
The narrowing of,
It was the narrowing down to one lane.
to one
right,
lane by the post office.
Yeah, I saw that.
Here's a copy right here.
Okay, this is a memo from Lieutenant Giorgio from the Milton Police. I've been informed by State Engineer Mike O'Dowd that on or about March 4th, 1996, one lane of Bryan Avenue will be closed off and on for approximately 4 to 6 weeks between the post office and Boulevard Street. Closing of one of the 2 lanes is necessary in order for the MWRA to install new water pipe lines and reinforcement of the deck walls. I will make notification to the local newspapers and radio stations of the closing dates for that time, for that lane. So, I think he told us about this when he was in last
Right.
week.
Yeah, I think he said 3 to 4 weeks at that time.
Yeah.
Looking at the minutes there, and I think what's happened is that the project is just turning out to be more difficult than we thought. 4 to 6 weeks is, you just
That's
creep
an
around.
extension, yeah.
Yeah, well,
That's the water pipe work that, on the original design plans, was going to be done before the project and then couldn't be because of MWRA problems, specifically providing water to Quincy City Hospital.
oh, really?
So, that was a total change from what we expected, but it's necessary, and we hope the police department can do an effective job keeping the traffic moving.
It's certainly difficult getting around there in the morning.
Right.
Okay, I want to talk with Billy about a number of these other items.
You want to do that, could we do that, do we need Billy to talk about that contract, which is this memo here?
No, I think we can,
The one we just handed?
Yeah.
no, what you just handed was a letter of clarification on some points that Mr. Neely raised today by phone to the town council on the boilerplate languages to the contract, and town council suggesting, ways to, what they mean, or remedies. So, do you want to go through that?
Okay, yeah, it's, let me just tell you which sections in the contract, this is on agenda item 3, I'll tell you which pages I had a concern about. On page 4, item 4.5, on the bottom of the page, the last sentence presently reads that the engineer will take reasonable precautions to minimize damage to the property from use of equipment, but have not included in the fee the cost of restoration of the damage that may result from such operations. That's what I'm objecting to. And I think town council here is, in paragraph 1, cited that let's see, he's substituted the following. Section 4.5 shall provide that in the absence of a waiver or release from the property owner, the engineer or a subcontractor or consultant, as applicable, shall repair at its expense any damage to the property which results from the performance of such services by or on behalf of the engineer. I guess my concern was if they're out there digging up the lawns and the other property over there, that want to be protected so that they, would have some responsibility to fix it.
This is in the form of a motion suggested by town council that if you wish, the board wishes to approve the proposed agreement or contract between the town of Milton and Whitman and Howard for design services regarding a Forbes Road pressure sewer system upon the following conditions. And that was the first condition. That was a remedial suggestion.
Right, the property, I just didn't want the property being damaged. The next one I had was on page 5, which was the section 5.2, whereby the engineer presently can engage subcontractors or consultants. And the change that we've agreed to here would be to provide that the engagement of any independent contractor or consultant shall not relieve the engineer from liability, so that you can't just pass it off. That's the second one. And the third one was on page 7, item 7.3, which refers to the ownership and use of the documents. And this refers to the documents including drawings, specifications, estimates, field notes, and other data. The fifth sentence of that paragraph noted that it shall remain the property of the engineer, and that's what concerned me, and that's why I called town council on that one. And the change that's proposed here is that the town of Milton may use such documents or data for any purpose related to the project. The words "without written verification or adaptation by engineer," the engineer is the vendor, "for the specific purpose intended," and the third sentence shall be deleted, and it's for any other purpose would be substituted. So that's
So
intended.
that would mean that you'd own them for the purposes of this project.
Right.
But if we tried to take the plans and specifications and apply them to another section of town, we would not have ownership. It's something similar to a computer software program.
Yeah, my concern was that we were paying $40,000. We ought to have, the documents, be the owners of the documents for the Forbes Road project. And that was the change that's made here, is to reflect that. And I agree that we obviously should not be able to use those plans to go put in a sewer project hypothetically, an unsewered area of town.
Or transfer them to another consulting engineer.
That's true. Change vendors in the middle of the deal.
The only concern here is that we're making changes and we don't know what the other party's reaction is going to be to the specifics. And we have a project that is precariously timed so that we'll have the product of the engineering design in time to get a grant. And to that, and the proposed consultant who we're about to contract with has gone out and got it lined up the subcontractor, the surveyor, to start on Monday. And in a few minutes you'll be looking at a draft of a notice we're giving to the neighbors about the surveyors being in the neighborhood. So it's all set time. I hope we don't get into too much of a hassle on this, but I would suggest the board, if they're willing, to go forward and vote this contract conditionally as set forward on this memo.
Mr. Cronin, I wonder if on page 2, under section 1.2, we could require that the engineer submit the state revolving fund loan application by April 1st, since I understand that is the deadline. The next paragraph refers to a 90-day completion period,
Right.
and that simply would be much too late. So could we add the words by April 1st, 1995?
Not later than April 1st?
Not later than April 1st.
So we're substituting for, it says within 90 calendar days.
Well, if there are other, I would just require that the grant application be submitted not later than April 1st. There may be some other services that could be delayed, but it's the grant application that has the deadline.
That's good. It's one, under 1.2.
Kathy, when are they going to print with the warrant?
End of
I was going to say
end
4 or
of
5
March.
weeks away, isn't it?
Yeah, end of
Yeah,
March.
yeah. I think they'd like to feel it this 3 or 4 weeks, but, or 3 weeks. But
Well, then you get a proof back and you can change the proof.
You got it.
Okay. So what you're saying is that the technicality is we have to wait to see if Whitman and Howard accepts these changes, and you've got, and they want to line up the work
yeah,
for
well,
Monday?
there's no board meeting scheduled, but I'm just raising that so that you'll all be aware when we make phone calls to
Well,
straighten
Presumably
out.
it's town council will be talking with Whitman and Howard tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
After we talk to Mr. Taylor tonight, do you want to, if we vote to accept that, do you want to make a contingent upon the town council talking to Whitman and Howard tomorrow? Then I don't think we have
Well,
to.
you've got to vote, you want to vote the contingencies that were listed in the letter with the motion that's prepared here, adding the motion, adding the
Plus the April.
the additional condition.
Yeah.
And then that should take care of itself. We should take care of it for you. That's, your vote will be that. You don't have to vote who talks to who.
Well, worst come to worst, we can designate the chairman to approve any minor modifications in language.
All right.
That'd be a good idea.
Okay, that's good.
How's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
I would proceed with the vote now. Mr. Taylor has not been a major involved in this.
Do you want to make a motion?
I would move that we sign this agreement with the modifications in the letter from town council, and also the additional requirement in section 1.2 that the engineer prepare and submit the loan application by April 1st, 1995, and that we further authorize the chairman to make minor modifications in language.
Okay.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have, might as well take up this quote.
It's the,
We were just handed a fax transmission from Town Council John Flynn regarding the town's lawsuit on the famous tower over in Quincy, and the town did not fare well in that lawsuit. The judge found in favor of the Quincy Zoning Board of Appeals and Francis DeRico in the case. In essence, she found that notice of the Quincy Zoning Board of Appeals hearing was sent by the Quincy Zoning Board of Appeals and received by the Milton Planning Board. In addition, she found that even if there had been a defect in the notice of the Quincy Zoning Board of Appeals hearing, any appeal from that board's decision had to be filed within 90 days after the decision had been filed with the office of the Quincy City Clerk. The judge rejected our argument that given the exceptional circumstances of this case and the fact that Milton did not learn of the DeRico Tower until January 1993, case law allowed Milton to appeal from that decision in February 1993. She found, I know you just saw it too, John, but she found that the town of Milton had been notified, which the planning board said it hadn't, but wasn't there a resident that was included in the lawsuit with the town, Brian Carey?
Page 3 here refers to Brian Carey. The plaintiffs were dismissed for lack of standing.
Oh, really?
Footnote on this page here.
Well,
whatever the definition of lack of standing is.
I mean, you know, it wasn't, under the law, there's no registered or certified mail required. And the party in Quincy, the clerk in Quincy said that to the best of her recollection, and then it would be a normal procedure to send it to Milton, and that's her position. And Mr. Cantor from the town said, we keep track of them when they come in, and this one didn't come in. So they had two people making testimony, and she ruled that from her point, her vantage point, she's going to say that it was, in fact, sent and received. Next point was regarding the appeal period, and the town did not exercise a right, nor the neighbors exercised a right to appeal, and she said that this is an absolute situation. If you don't appeal within the 90 days, whether you knew or whether you didn't know, that's the end of it. And that is, and we knew that was the law. There was one exceptional case somewhere which Milton, in his case, tried to present as that this was such an exceptional case, but it is commonly understood that the real estate matters would be in a state of chaos unless there was finality to the appeal process. And this judge has upheld that principle of finality, that after the 90-day opportunity to appeal has gone by, whatever is been approved by a Board of Appeals is approved, and that's the way it is. And it's harsh on our side, and very regrettable that the town, the city folks didn't have neighborly concern for us to at least be sure that we knew about the hearing and at least had the opportunity to appeal. It's regrettable.
So it's hard to believe they don't require certified mail in this.
And that's correct, but our Board of Appeal doesn't have to use certified mail either.
Well, we were the only ones left in the game because they had thrown out the rest, Cunningham and the other abutters, so.
Yep, I think we gave it our best shot.
I think we probably lost our best shot when they didn't respond to the aviation safety concerns, but we carried this just as far as we could.
I do have a FEMA, the federal applications forms for possible grants or funding or reimbursement to the town for the unusual amount of snow we had this winter. These forms are for the Board of Selectmen to sign, or the chairman of the board to sign, designating an agent for the town, and we are suggesting the name of Kevin J. Cleary, the administrative assistant in the Public Works Department, who has attended the training meetings and training conferences. We're talking about, perhaps $20,000. The paperwork is substantial on the federal form, but if the board wishes to vote to designate Kevin Cleary as your agent, then we can complete these forms and pursue that money.
I'll move that we name Kevin Cleary as the agent.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sean, they're on the left-hand side, those two places.
Okay.
We have, I guess the subject, maybe Sarah Harnish should wait until Walt Amory joins us in a few minutes for his rusty water. The issue the board just signed the pressure sewer system for Forbes Road design contract with the firm of Whitman and Howard, as has been recommended by the town engineer. They with 5 actually conditions points, and you may want to have Paul review those with me first thing in the morning.
Well, you want to, while we have Mr. Sweeney and Mr. Higgins here, we'll get to the Chapter 90 first, please.
Bill, we had a presentation from the Indian Cliff Neighborhood Association. The president is here himself, Mr. Higgins, and they've reminded us of their petition of December, saying that they'd like a plan, a long-range plan. We explained to them that the plan was started last year, that will be continued this year on Colonial Road, and that you have under consideration the parts of Old Farm. All a part of Old Farm. This is the map. Everybody in town listening to that paper crinkle of roads that were done last year and under immediate funding proposed under the funding that's available for this year. Now, we say that the director in his report stated that the sum of $340,000 is available for the work for work this year, and that he didn't say that under the annual appropriation by the state, a new sum will be available beginning July 1st if the there's a biennial transportation bond issue is passed by the legislature this year, as is expected. And that is a hope to provide an additional $470,000, maybe $500,000, somewhere in that order of magnitude. So that would be added. So it'd be $840,000 potentially that would be available for work to be done. So we have a list of potential projects that are really taken from the list published the last couple of years in the warrant, under the warrant committee's comments. It does not do all of them. For instance, your attention is called to Brush Hill Road, where a substantial expenditure is warranted by the condition of the road, which is deteriorating rapidly. But because in this section, all the way from Truman Parkway up to this point clearly is needed, and as well as all the way down to the other end. The problem is that the director would like to defer doing this because he feels some drainage work is warranted between Smith Road and along the outside of the E.M. Lowe estate. There was water on the surface of the roadway, and that should be collected and be carried on in subsurface drainage. Also, there were some rusty water problems in that section that we'd like to get resolved before we do the resurfacing, because we don't want to go in there with the resurfacing and then dig up to do the water main work. In this section, there are no reported problems. There are no drainage problems, there are no rusty water problems or water main problems. So but the entire section of Brush Hill Road is mentioned in the warrant. So there might be an argument being made that there's a commitment by being mentioned to do this at an early date is certainly early after we have the drainage problem solved and the rusty water problem solved. That's just an illustration of how we have parts of streets here that,
So the green here for Thatcher Street is the section that is scheduled to be paved this spring from Lincoln, looks like, from Central down to Food Market. That's scheduled this spring. That's this green section.
Lincoln should be from Central.
Yeah, I guess excuse me, Central.
You're going to finish the sidewalk on the
Opposite side.
opposite side, yeah.
And we, there's some omissions here, like Houston Avenue. This section of Houston Avenue was intended to be enclosed. So this is a preliminary or working sketch, and there'll be a more comprehensive one presented to you, I think, next week.
Yeah, I think it would be worthwhile to give us an idea, in this list that you gave us. I guess I'd like to know specifically as to when these things are going to be done. And the issue is, between the two amounts of money, which is close to the, in addition to, if you take Thatcher Street and include that, and add the 500 plus the 340, it's $840,000. What's the timetable for getting that spent? Can you get that spent before the cold weather gets here again?
Well,
A lot of it has to
You
do,
don't have to-
a lot of it
you don't
has
have
to
to
do
look
with
at it now.
with the eventual scopes of each one of those projects.
But when you come back,
If
I guess
we-
I'd like to see what that
If
schedule would be.
we do a lot of paving and not a lot of sidewalk and curb work, we can spend it, no problem. It really depends on what other work gets done.
But if you move the curb back, and you have to have all the utility companies participate in moving 25 telephone poles, utility poles,
Which is
and that means the cable TV has to move their wires, the Milton Wire Department has to move their wires, the telephone company has to move their wires, and the Edison has to move their wires, and the telephone company who own the poles, they have to actually physically put a new pole in, and then at the end, they have to cut the other pole off or dig
That's
it
why
up.
you go down Thatcher Street now, most of the poles on the right-hand side of the street coming down the hill, you see a
Doubles.
double pole.
So that...
And that's what delayed you a few months last summer,
That's
right, on
right.
Thatcher Street.
Yeah, but what we'd like to be able to say is to, in this list, some portion or all of it, depending on what we do, is to be able to at least give people an idea when it's going to be done. And then there's only the issue is looking at whatever else needs to be added and seeing when it can be done as well.
Bill, how much of the work that we had in last year's warrant weren't we able to get to this year? Winter came early, but
Oh, boy, I don't know if
Did you bring a list of by years?
I did bring a list showing the projects that have been completed.
okay.
This has been, some people phoned in their questions ahead of time, and
This is useful.
Yeah, we did quite a few projects last year.
Oh, yeah.
In '96, we've got a good start. This is by fiscal year.
A lot
Okay.
more in 95 than the previous year. A lot of streets.
Yeah, well, to be fair, the amount of funding went up starting last year, so that made more money available. And some of the streets on the 95 list are shorter. Some were just straight paving jobs without much sidewalk and curb work.
I have two or three things. I'm not sure how many yet. Wait till I get into them. Could either yourself or Branch sit down with the people from the Indian Cliffs Neighborhood Association and come up with a priority list of what streets,
they think.
it may take 20 years, I don't know, but what streets you feel, what kind of a timetable, not holding you to, recognizing that you have funding problems and scheduling problems, but prioritize which streets you feel have to be done before others. And maybe give them some kind of an idea as to how long it would take. They recognize that there are scheduling problems, funding problems, and so on and so forth. But I think they'd just like some kind of a map or timetable type of thing. And if you could do that with Mr. Higgins and Mr. Sweeney, who are behind you,
Okay.
would appreciate it.
Do you have...
Is that all right, Bob?
Yes.
Okay.
Billy, do you have the data on those streets that were collected as for the input to the pavement management system?
No, the consultant's coming out Monday morning,
Okay.
and hopefully at that time she will install the database so we can start to work with it and produce some reports.
But the study has been done, right? The data's been collected?
The data's all collected, they've been verifying it, they were like 99% done with the verification, so it's all set to give to us. Then the next phase, which would be about another 3 or 4 weeks, is for them to produce a report for us.
So what's the timetable for us to make the final decisions? When you want to start the spring projects? May 1st, is that when you start?
Earlier, hopefully.
So,
We'll be back next week with a warrant committee level report, a report for the board to make decisions in order to present it to the warrant committee. This will be an ongoing process as we get the computer running. There'll be new ideas and new suggestions, and opportunities to make modifications, but we need to have a report for the Board of Selectmen to approve, to go to the warrant committee for inclusion as their comment for next year. And we also simultaneously need to have the financial plan submitted to the board next week that would show the board how we're going to cope with the now $200,000 shortfall as a result of snow, and the amount that's going to be needed for projected is needed for the reserve fund, and how much is needed for the appropriation of the special article in town meeting. So all those things, we're going to be on Public Works now for a couple of weeks, heavy duty.
I'm going to want to know which month we're going to do these streets in.
Can I continue with mine?
Oh, you have 3 more?
Yeah. Bill, you've got here a substantial amount of money for Pleasant Street from Brook to Edge Hill.
Correct.
I was under the impression that we had a deal with one of the utilities.
Yes, the gas company agreed to pay 25% of the cost of the resurfacing from Brook to, now I can't remember, the street, the four-way intersection.
Yeah,
the four-way stop.
The four-way.
Oh, the four-way stop?
Yeah.
Intersection. So they paid 25% of.
Gordon Road?
Exactly.
And
Okay. So they would pay, probably 10 to 15% of the overall project?
Mm-hmm.
25.
Well, 25
25, we're going to go from
to
Gordon,
Gordon
then
Road.
to Edge Hill.
We had listed all the way to Edge Hill Road, so.
Well, but
there's a
they
piece
also are
of-
proceeding with a new replacement.
The information we have, in checking with them in the last 2 weeks or so, is that they're finished with their work on Pleasant Street. So,
Okay. We've got money in here for Mechanic Street. For the following year, I'm not asking you to put it on this list, but for the following year, could we consider Pierce too? If you're going to do Mechanic, you should do the like Twin Street,
You have here listed School Street from Canton to Adams, or is that?
I think it's Canton to Randolph.
Canton to Randolph.
yeah.
Okay.
I think
As I say, this was a draft.
Right.
That School Street Canton to Central, that's going to incorporate some of that curbing issues that we talked about a couple of months ago?
I thought we would do that with whichever project proceeded first, either the Central Avenue project or the School Street
Okay.
project. Right now, I think we're ready to go from, on Central Avenue.
From
We're ready
Griggs?
to start, pick up where we left off from Griggs Lane and go down to the business district.
Okay.
So we'll probably incorporate that curbing work then.
We're also looking for a speedy response on from the town engineer on the new curbing configurations in the business district. I mean, if we're going to include that, it should all be done at the same time.
Okay.
Would you ask the town engineer, Paul Cantor, to arrange a meeting with the businesses in Central Avenue and show them the curbing plan and let them be aware of what's proposed and just get any comments that they may have?
Now, this is a pretty aggressive schedule, and we didn't get to everything last year.
You may not
Well, I could,
get to this whole one this year
in
either.
defense, make the argument that the fiscal year '96 is not yet over. Really, the money that we have left, depending again on what projects we decide to go ahead with in April and the scope, we may very well be caught up by the end of June with the money that's available.
Okay.
And then we'd be starting again the fresh allotment for FY '97.
But you understand the money that's available here is available now will only do a third of the list. So you're carrying forward a big backlog, and as I explained, and using the example of Brush Hill Road and many other examples, you have much more beyond facing you.
It'd be helpful if next week's meeting, if you can asterisk which ones were in the 96 warrant.
All these works of
All of
school,
them?
is my understanding.
Yeah.
But we can divide this out in a different way to illustrate it by again, mentioning the warrant doesn't designate a commitment to do the work. It's to illustrate the work that's going to be done and inform them.
Okay. Thank you for this list of completed projects. Is that, Bob, is that okay with you that Bill will sit down and talk to you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it would be helpful if we talk to Mr. Taylor and Mr.
Okay, great. Why don't we do item 2? Which is a letter from Sarah Harnish. Will, did you see this?
The bathtub picture.
I think it is.
This is a resident of Brush Hill Road with a complaint about the quality of the tap water.
This is in a section, this very section of Brush Hill Road that the director recommended not be resurfaced immediately because of this rusty condition that prevails among a few houses in that neighborhood.
Now, do I understand that Joe Martinelli and Dick Casey were up looking at some of the valves up there? I know they were out in front of the library last Wednesday, working on the Reedsdale Road.
Yeah.
Have they had success?
Ask Branch to
Okay.
correct me if I find out that I'm wrong, but I know they were up in this area, in the Smith Road area, looking for any valves that might have been closed, possibly during the low estate work. And I think they didn't find anything closed, but they did do a thorough flushing of the system up there.
Which she's grateful for, and she said that has given them some relief in the past, but in the past it's only been temporary, and then the rusty water would reappear. So we'll be hearing a little bit more about the town's efforts to eliminate the pockets of rusty water that occur during the wintertime in a few minutes, and maybe after that, after some of that information, we can inform Mrs. Harnish, in fact, what we're going to be doing this year.
And what about the work that was done on Reedsdale Road? Did that have any effect?
Yes, I spoke to one of the residents on Monday, and they were pleased with the work that had been done, and she characterized the water being improved to about 85% of what she thought it should look like compared to what it was before.
I've had a similar discussion with another resident down there in the same area.
And she told me she talked to at least one of her neighbors who agreed with that.
That's good.
That was the result of, there was a valve that was changed there.
There's a valve on Reedsdale between Meredith Circle, the two legs of Meredith, that is broken closed. And that may have an effect, that probably does have an effect on it. Very shortly we'll be out fixing that. In addition, there was a valve on Artwell Street that was closed about 80% of the way, which further restricted the flow around that loop. And that was opened. So, by the way, that opening occurred just shortly before we had a break in Randolph Avenue again, that old piece. So, coincidental or not, I don't know. But anyway, we were able to have some improvement out there.
Substantial, but still some more work to do. But I saw those two DPW workers out. They seemed to be pretty enthused about what they were doing.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, good workers.
Okay.
Do you want to get into the rest of the water stuff now? At this
Yeah,
point?
we may as well. Is this Mr.
Walter Amory.
Amory? Why don't you come forward, Mr. Amory? How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I may take the liberty of passing around my passport here.
Walter Amory is a principal of Amory Engineering of Duxbury, and he first worked on the town of Milton's water system back in 1963. So he has been here with water commissioners and selectmen and water superintendents and public works directors, and has been guiding us. That's a very long time to be helping a municipality, and we're grateful for you coming up tonight and giving us a little history of the system.
Mr. Amory, just for your information, this is Kathy Dunphy,
And we
Hi,
spoke on the
Kathy.
phone.
We did, yeah.
Yes.
Rick Neely.
Hi.
Hi,
and my
Rick.
name is John Shields.
Hi, John.
I believe I've met you before. You were
One way or
a couple
another.
years ago.
The
yeah.
face looks familiar.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead?
Right, okay. Well, John has prepped me for tonight, and so what I thought I might do, with your indulgence, is to first of all present a brief overview of the system, history of system improvements since that memorable 1963 M&E report, current conditions and recommendations for a system upgrade. Starting off with overview of system. As I suspect you're aware, the Milton water system serves 25,000 people. The system is supplied from the MWRA, and it is supplied through 3 connections. One in East Milton, another at the Lower Mills, and a third one up the hill on Metropolitan Avenue. The Milton system is a 2-zone service system, and the low service zone, which is supplied from 2 of the MWRA connections, one at the Lower Mills and the other at East Milton, serves in general the northerly section of the town. The high service zone, which is connected to the MWRA at Metropolitan Avenue, serves the southerly section of the town. The high service zone, in addition to distribution mains, includes 3 distribution storage tanks, one on Great Blue Hill and 2 tanks on Chickatawbit Hill. So that is kind of a general overview of the system. If I might just touch now on a history of improvements that have occurred since 1963, I would say that first of all, that the primary purpose of the Metcalfe and Eddy report, which I, as project manager, prepared, was to present recommendations on reinforcement of the system. At that time, there were some weak links. However, since that time, all the significant recommendations made in that Metcalf and Eddy report have been completed. The more significant improvements include, first of all, in the low service zone, 12-inch main in Central Avenue from Brook Road to Elliott Street, 12-inch main in Edge Hill Road from Governor's Road to Vinewood Road, and then looking at the high service zone, the newer of the two tanks on Chickatobit Hill was constructed back during the middle 60s. Again, that was one of the recommendations in the Metcalf and Eddy 1963 report. In addition to that tank, the high service zone was reinforced with substantial lengths of 12-inch, 16-inch, and 20-inch reinforcing mains between the MWRA connection on Metropolitan Avenue and the Chickatobit Hill tanks. Part of that work the town did with its own forces and under contract. A major part of it, however, was done through the enforced courtesy of developers in the area. That, I think, brings us now to current conditions. And this is where the Amory Engineer report, which was completed 3 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, in 1993, comes into the picture. The 1993 report included not only an evaluation of the system at that time, but also recommendations on water system improvements. The current problems with the water system are, first of all, rusty water complaints. Secondly, excessive frequency of water main breaks. And then thirdly, excessive unaccounted for water. And what I'd like to do would be just to run through those three categories with you and outline our recommendations for remedy. Rusty water complaints. There are two primary reasons for this. Well, there are three, actually. The first is that there are several miles of old cast iron main in the Milton water system. This main was installed, much of it 60, 70, perhaps 80 years ago and more. And this was before they used cement mortar to line the inside of pipes in order to protect the iron against corrosive water. So that you have a lot of old unlined cast iron mains in the system, plus the fact that the MWRA water is corrosive. So you've got a situation where the iron pipe, the inside of the iron pipe, is exposed to corrosive water. The result is rust. That sounds simple, and it is pretty basic, but that's why the rust, essentially. The Amory Engineers report has recommended that the system be flushed section by section, beginning at the sources of supply and working to the extremities on an annual basis. And the best time of year to do that is in the spring, before you get into your summer season and your high demand periods where high flows tend to stir up anything that's sitting there in the pipe. Now, if I may touch on one other subject as it relates to rusty water, it's my understanding that you have a lot of rusty water complaints during the wintertime. We would normally expect this to happen during the summertime when you have high rates of flow going through the pipes, which in turn stir up the debris and the sediment. And during those periods of time, we would normally expect to have rusty water problems. So my curiosity got the better of me, and I called John Shawcross, an old fellow M&E alumnus of mine, and I asked him about it over at the MWRA. And he said, well, what they think is going on is that during the winter time, with low temperatures and low demands, the chlorine residual tends to remain at a higher level. There is not as much organic matter. Things don't happen as fast as far as chlorine uptake goes with colder water. So that chlorine is reaching out into the system, particularly the dead ends, and during the wintertime when you have low flow conditions and the water is stagnant, the combination of stagnant water and low temperature, high chlorine residual is what's causing not rusty water, but what the MWRA refers to as yellow water. Same idea. Not very nice to drink yellow water. But that apparently is their current thinking. The jury is still out yet. They have not come up with any definite solution. They are thinking about modifying their disinfection program. They're using chloramines, which are a combination of chlorine and ammonia, and they're playing around with perhaps adjusting the ratio of chlorine and ammonia, or that's the yellow water, that's right. But again, the jury is still out, and that's as much as I could learn in talking with them this morning.
I think it's more than we wanted to know.
Well, you said there are 3 reasons, right, for rusty water?
Basically, there are, yeah, the third one is, you want the third one?
I'm not sure.
I got it right here. I've been waiting for that. The third one, frankly, is the fact that from what I understand, the Milton water system has not been given a good, hard, thorough, section-by-section flush for a long time. And that's what it needs.
Like more than 10 years.
More than 10 years.
More than 10 years for a thorough flush?
Maybe even 20.
Maybe even 20.
A good thorough. There's been flushings done, but
Yeah.
good.
Localized.
Well, a system. It's good flushing. You have to manage it in a certain way, and I'd like Walter to explain how that's done and
Sure.
why.
The way it's done is simply you divide the system up into different sections, the number and configuration of each section depending on the size of the system and the arrangement of pipes, where the water's coming into the system. I would guess that in the case of the Milton system, we might be looking at 15 to 20 sections, roughly. And what you do is you start at the source of supply, and you operate your valves in such a way that the water coming in from that source is coming into that section, but it's contained in that section. So you then, with the valves closed to contain the water within that section, you then flush the section sequentially by hydrants, starting from the supply end and working through to the perimeter, if you will, of that section. Now you probably won't have to flush every hydrant in that section, but you might want to flush 1 and 2 or maybe 1 and 3, depending on the concentrations of sediment that you have to get rid of and how many hydrants you need to do it. Once you have cleaned up that section, you then go on to the next section, which is sort of down the hill from the first one. You do the same thing. until eventually you've done the whole system. And the trick is to lay out the sections so that when you go to the second section, you don't flush a lot of dirty water through the first section that you've already cleaned. And it takes a little bit of examining. One very important factor, of course, is the need to know which valves don't operate and which hydrants don't operate. This is one very good way of finding out. Essentially, that's it. Time-wise, depending on the availability of personnel for the entire system, it might be a 2-month operation, just for rough numbers.
And sometimes, some sections you might want to do at night?
Yes, in those sections where you've got higher water use, more intensity of development, more people up at night using the water, using the water during the daytime, I think you would want to flush at night in those areas. However, in the outlying areas where there aren't that many people involved, you could probably get away with it during the daytime.
How well mapped out is the system in terms of documentation, in terms of gates, valves?
I am not able to answer that question accurately. I have the information from Branch Lane on water mains in the system, but I don't know about all the valving. I would have to defer to Mr. Lane on that.
Do you want to answer that, Branch?
Yes, well done.
So we have a good sense where all the gates and valves are, so we could attempt to do this type of work that he's talking about.
It does require that these plans be brought together and presented to the consultant, and the consultant spent some time to lay out the logical sections and the perimeters and make a sequence plan for what valves are opened in each one. That's
right, John. Yes.
Can I just, one of the first reasons you talked about was the cast iron unlined piped. What's an estimate of what it would take to install cement lining inside those rather than dig up every street in town?
That is a good question. Whether you're cleaning and lining a 6-inch pipe or a 12-inch pipe or a 16-inch pipe, the major cost is opening up the pipe, setting up your equipment, and passing the equipment, the lining, cleaning and lining equipment through the pipe. The cost of materials, relatively speaking, is peanuts. So for that reason, the cost is pretty much, it's within a few dollars a foot, regardless of the size of pipe. To answer your question, I think, say, looking at maybe a 12-inch pipe, we might be talking something in the range of $30 a foot, $30 to $40 a foot, something like that. I don't have an accurate number on that, but that would be my guess.
Well, when you say there are several miles of old cast iron made, any estimate of how many miles that is?
I'm on pretty thin ground. Branch, do you have any idea of that?
It's probably half.
Half of the system?
50 miles, 50 to 80 miles.
Cast iron pipe?
Well, you got 150 miles of pipe, I believe, in the system.
Slightly over 120.
Is that 120? Okay. 120 feet of miles of pipe. And what would it be reasonable to assume that a third of that might be all cast iron? Yeah, I got a piece that's worse than that.
Boy, you are really show and tell tonight.
TV time.
The boys downstairs gave me a piece worse than that. Incredible at that.
Well, when you look at that pipe, is it worth putting cement lining inside a pipe like that or not?
Well, that's what, is that a 6-inch, would you guess?
Yeah.
6-inch.
At one time.
At one time, yeah.
How would you do cement lining inside that thing?
Well, what you do is you run knives through it in the form of a cleaning device, scrapers.
Reamer.
Reamer, yeah. And that cleans it down to the bare metal, And when you've done that, then you go through it with a cement mortar lining machine, which sprays the cement mortar onto the inside of the pipe as they pull the machine through the pipe, and then the machine also has paddles, which tend to, trying to think of the word, kind of smooth the mortar off, so it's a nice smooth finish. The question, however, is not whether you can do it. You can do it. There's no problem there. The question is, are you gaining that much more capacity by improving the condition of a 6-inch pipe as opposed to cleaning and lining a larger pipe? In other words, if you were to, say you were to triple the capacity of this pipe after you cleaned and lined it, as opposed to tripling the capacity of a 12-inch pipe, the net gain wouldn't be anywhere near as much as it would be for the larger pipe. Now, there is, of course, the question, well, what about a 6-inch pipe in a busy neighborhood where you don't want to dig up the streets, you have rusty water complaints, and what's the best way to go? Under those conditions, if you're just looking for correcting the rusty water problem, it perhaps would be worthwhile spending that kind of money on cleaning and lining a 6-inch pipe. But if that pipe has any potential of serving not only as a local distributor, but also as a main feed throughout the system, then you'd want to relay it larger.
Can you explain the difference between cast iron pipe and ductile iron pipe?
Yeah, a cast iron pipe, I assume this is cast iron. The difference, they're both iron, of course. The difference is that ductile iron pipe has a small percentage of manganese in it. Oh, excuse me, magnesium. And this makes it a more flexible pipe. It's more malleable. It doesn't have anywhere near. It's not nearly anywhere near as brittle as the straight cast iron pipe. And that's basically the difference.
And that's what we are using
Yes.
now exclusively, and probably have been for 20 years or
At least.
Yes.
so. In all of our replacement pipe and all of our new pipes, and all of Indian Cliffs would probably be all ductile iron,
Right.
for example, so that they are much less likely to have water main breaks in ductile iron.
That's right.
So that's another difference. That's another reason why you might lean towards a replacement more than reaming and cement lining.
What's the cost? You mentioned, you guessed the cost was $30 to $40 a foot to clean and line. What's the cost to replace by digging up the street?
Again, that'll vary a little more with the size of pipe and the cleaning and lining will, but let's look at an 8-inch main just for a typical pipe in a side street. Depends a little bit on whether you're going to do it with town forces or whether you're going to do it under contract.
And paving.
Pardon?
And patching. Or
And the pavement, that's right.
Patching or repaving.
If you were to do it under contract, I would say for 8-inch pipe, you're probably looking at somewhere in the range of $50 to $60 a foot.
$50 to $60 a foot?
That's right.
So it's higher than
Oh, yes.
cleaning and lining?
Yes. Another 50%, I would guess.
That's contracting.
Yes.
What was the in-house? You don't-
Maybe you could knock $5 to $10 off that, depending on your accounting system.
Well, it seems to me, as a board, what we're facing is they're not concentrating in one area. It's the complaints that come in from various sections of town on these complaints of water quality. One of them looks like it may be the MWRA's yellow water, but
Yeah, in wintertime, that's right.
and it certainly is an issue with the chlorine level. It seems to me the other issue here is that taking a look at adopting a program of this system flush, looking at what's the cost for us to do that.
Let me have Branch speak to that, because he did, the Public Works Department did include a program in the budget that the Board of Selectmen has approved, and I'd like Branch to explain to you what the cleaning and flushing appropriation was, and that's to get started this next year, beginning July 1st.
Yes, essentially what I had done in the, I don't have the sheet from me, but on the budget sheets, I had put together because of the larger main replacement program, I set aside a modest amount for the water main flushing activity to start next year, fiscal '97. But the amount that I had put in was essentially to do one of the two zones. Thinking that with the much greater expenditure that we had brought forward to the board for replacement of mains, that we felt were in very poor condition, that it was going to be somewhat difficult to put the whole burden of the $60,000 approximately to do the whole system in 1 year. So I put in $30,000 for a plan of either the high or the low, and the low service zone seems to be where we get most of the calls, to do the low service zone next year, and with anticipation of doing the rest of the system thereafter.
I talked to Mr. Amory about the possibility of doing just, say, if there were 25 sections in the town, just doing 5 this year. He really recommends strongly that if we start the flushing program to do it right, we do the whole thing, or the whole high service or the whole low service.
That would be my recommendation, yes. And I think that Branch just mentioned that many of the rusty water complaints come from people being served by the low service system. And this fits the picture very nicely because that system contains a lot more, a much higher percentage of old cast iron pipe than the high service system does. That's where you have your older communities, and mains have been around in that low service system a lot longer. And how about water main breaks? Is there any particular difference in the frequency of breaks between the high service zone and the low zone break?
The intensity of the breaks at this point seems to be more in the low surface zone, in the older pipe network in the low surface zone, with the exception of some of the small feed mains and not transmission mains in the high service zone near the source, near the point source. So when we have them in the high services, they seem to be more toward the source point up near Metropolitan Avenue on the smaller mains, whereas on the low service system, it seems to be, the breaks seem to occur more in the transmission mains, the Randolph Avenue, the Brook Road, the larger piping in that network, which all seems to be aiding in reaching a point of failing at one time.
Mr. Amory, earlier in your presentation, you mentioned that there was an excessive frequency of water main breaks. Is that?
Yes, sir.
That you feel in this town there is an excessive?
Absolutely. From what I have been told relating to the number of water main breaks that occur, I would say that you're experiencing many too many breaks here. And I think the reason primarily is, again, because of these old cast iron mains. Cast iron is a lot more brittle than the ductile iron, new material, which we just discussed. So that if you have any sort of a shock pressure loading on the water main, or if you have unsuitable bedding underneath that main, maybe the main got laid on a rock, sooner or later, because of the the fragility of that pipe, you're going to have a break. It's either going to break due to a pressure loading or due to improper bedding. And combined with those two factors, you also have the impact of corrosion on that old cast iron pipe, which essentially results in loss of iron. Very often, cast iron pipe, after it's been subjected to corrosive water for a number of years, becomes graphited. That is, the iron tends to migrate out of the cell structure, and as a result, that iron pipe loses a good deal of its initial strength. So that with the loss of iron, with improper bedding conditions, and with more brittle material than current materials that are used, you're going to have frequency of water main breaks that you wouldn't have with newer materials.
Although we do have one exception, don't we? Isn't the Brook Road pipe, how old is that?
There are some exceptions. The pipe on Randolph Avenue that was originally replaced in '16 that goes from Brook Road to Adams. The pipe on Brook is not as aged as some, but there is an era of pipe that went into the town's network, and some of it I think is like during the war years.
It was manufactured during the war.
In the 40s, when for whatever reason there was not enough iron available, the quality control was not consistent, the way that the pipe was fabricated was deficient, and a lot of those pipes failed much earlier than some of the older pipes. That was the case on Randolph Avenue from
By St. Michael's.
From St. Michael's over the hill.
And Brook Road.
It is the case in part of Brook Road, so.
Well, what should we do about this problem of pipe failure, and also ultimately on rusty pipe? The report, the 1993 report, recommended that the town increase its investment in its capital investment in pipe replacement and meter replacement also, to the tune of from about $80,000 a year to $530,000 a year. And the Board of Selectmen started the implementation of that 2 years ago with the increasing it by $100,000 in capital, which was voted at a special town meeting on top of the $80,000. This year, you have about $90,000 plus $100,000, which is you've factored into the rates, and the town meeting will be asked to appropriate in May for the current fiscal year. And then for next year's capital amount is 370 something?
Well, I think we recommended an annual expenditure of this order of magnitude.
Well, that's right, but we're working our way up to it.
What you recommended and what we have are two different things.
So if the town meeting will approve this 390,000 component in the water public works budget, then we'll be well on our way to achieving your goal, and maybe another year, there'll be another incremental increase, and we can get up to that plain annual rate of $530 per year, and we can start to work on the meter replacement program as well. So are we heading in the right direction?
We sure are, John, and there's one thing I would like to point out relating to the meter replacement program. That was going to be, after talking about rusty water and breakage of water mains, which I guess we pretty well covered.
Well, no, can you, before you get into the meters, I do want to ask a question on meters, but just, Branch, you mentioned that the 97 proposal, 30,000 out of the 390, beginning July 1st, is proposed to do the low pressure zone.
Flushing.
Correct. Flushing the zone.
Oh, flush, yes.
The question I have is in terms of, we have, at this point, waiting for approval in May for $100,000, which we intend to do pipe. Is there a reason we'd want to reallocate 30,000 out of that 100,000? and do one system in May and June and do the other system in July? I mean, that's just an open-ended question saying, hey,
Well, we are currently, as part of the strategic financial plan to get the Public Works General through the end of the year because of the snow problem. We are having an active dialogue with the director and the assistant director on how we're going to use our manpower. So there may be some argument towards starting sooner rather than later with a part of it. If we can get the engineering work that's necessary done. Well, something we should look at. The other suggestion you had is to decrease the 100 to 70 and right, or supplement the request that we have now is another way of doing it. So all of those we should look at once we get the board's reactions to tonight's presentation.
well, the other choice obviously is to take 60 out of the 390 and do it that way.
After we get the board's reaction to tonight's presentation.
I'm sorry, go
You
ahead.
may want to buy meters before we finish.
Well, yeah, go ahead, I have you on your meters.
Well, okay. During the period 1988 to 92, which is the period that I examined while preparing the report that Amory Engineers submitted in 1993, the unaccounted for water averaged 27% of total water purchased from the MWRA. Unaccounted for water generally includes water that is lost through meters that have either stopped or are not registering. It is also the result of water main leakage and breakage, and to a lesser extent, water used for firefighting and street flushing. But the biggest culprit is water that is lost due to stopped or under-registering meters. Now, when I say unaccounted for water, you might ask me, well, what is that? Unaccounted for water is the difference between the amount of water you buy from the MWRA and the amount of water you sell to your customers. Just as simple as that. I understand that DPW does have a meter replacement program. It's my suggestion that it be upgraded. And I believe that the report which I submitted to you, 93, recommended setting up a meter replacement program with an annual expenditure of $100,000. Now, that's a lot of money. There's no question about it. On the other hand, you're going to get a return on this investment, and that's something you should not overlook. I went through some numbers 3 years ago now. I'm rusty on them now, but I can give you the bottom line of them. And the bottom line says that if you can reduce your unaccounted for water from 27%, which it was during that 5-year period, 88 through 92, to 15%, which I think is a good target to shoot for, you should be able to reduce the amount that you pay to the MWRA for purchasing water from them by $75,000 to $90,000 a year. So that while you won't recoup all of what you're spending for upgrading meters, you should receive a good hunk of it back. Just how much of it, I can't promise you, but if you can get that unaccounted for water down to 15%, you should save a substantial amount of money.
So 12% could be close to $90,000 per annum?
Yeah, the difference between the 15 and 27, that's right. And those numbers are based on, I think, a charge of something like a little over $6 per 100 cubic feet in excess of 1,200 cubic feet per billing period, is it, Brad?
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe it's gone up since then.
Yes.
Has it? Well, you'd be saving more than that.
What is the range of unaccounted water in other communities?
Well, it depends on the community.
No, I wasn't looking for a specific one. I was
Yeah.
looking for, you know, if we're X, what are the other communities?
What would, you mean, what should be a good target?
Yeah, well, what's common?
Common? I would say for a community that hasn't really been giving too much thought to water conservation, and there are lots of them out there, it'll run anywhere from 25 to 40%.
40%?
Yep.
Unaccounted for?
If that is in communities that really haven't taken conservation seriously.
Or have a lot of fires?
Or have leaks?
Well, the fires don't really add that much. I mean, the fire doesn't go on as long as a dripping faucet in the kitchen. Those little drips add up. And on the other hand, there are many communities where conservation is a major consideration, and in those communities, it'll get down anywhere maybe between 8 and 12%, and sometimes lower. But when the number's lower than that, I begin to get suspicious, because there's all kinds of ways you can fudge this stuff around.
You talk about the meters in terms of meters. If somebody new house is built today, what kind of meter do we put in? The same type of meter?
I would assume,
The same
yeah.
existing. I guess the question I have is, we're talking about a meter upgrade system. I mean, isn't it possible we should do that in all new homes, or identify the meters that you want to recommend and have those start being installed?
Well, there's meter reading devices. Again, the meter replacement program is something where we'll probably want to have an entirely separate presentation on all the alternates to consider.
The meter replacement tie-in with a new computer billing system, so
You
that
want the
you
one,
get,
you don't want to be the guy on the street
Yeah.
and just read this thing without.
or drive by in a car, one or the other.
Yep.
So as I say,
Yeah.
that takes a lot of careful
And then
thought on the
have the
alternatives.
data go directly to a computer, so you don't have the hand
Cut down the
transmission
manual
and
aspect of
the
it.
errors.
But probably did some sort of a presentation of the alternatives, the devices and reader meeting systems that are in the market and what are available. Maybe have one or two of them presented to you by the manufacturer, and then sort of maybe an analysis of that done in subsequent weeks. That would be a good exercise, I think, to get into at the right moment.
I'm sure you'd have no problems.
Yeah, and they'd be happy to come.
They'd be happy to join you.
Do you see a higher percentage of unaccounted for water in a town such as Milton, where in some areas there are long distances between homes, so you know, whereas opposed to a city where the users might be closer together and the pipe runs shorter? So we compare, you know, we really should compare Milton to similar communities.
Well, I think to answer that question with an oblique answer, the yardstick which DEP uses is